I believe that we are already at the early stages, if not in World War III.
It just doesn't look like the wars of the past.
And people should understand what is at stake, which is we are one misunderstanding, one miscalculation away
Or even one AI-generated viral video.
from nuclear annihilation.
Is there anything at all you're doing to prepare?
I'm leaving the United States by 2026.
But is there anywhere on this map that is safe in a war?
So my understanding is that there's actually 3 safe zones.
You are right.
There's Hawaii.
No, because there are so many targets in Hawaii. And same with all of Europe. But there's one tiny little place right there.
So where do we find ourselves in terms of conflict and warfare now?
It's getting worse.
Greetings, my dear brothers and sisters from around the world. My name is Baktas Momba, and I'd like to invite you to the study of end-time events and the second coming of Jesus. The book of Matthew and the book of Revelation have never spoken louder than they are in our time. The two books, though written a few years apart in the first century and by two different inspired authors, stunningly speak the same language regarding the order of end-time events and the second coming of Jesus. Matthew, the former publican, as Matthew chapter number 10, verse number 3 says, Matthew the publican, and John, the writer of the book of Revelation, whom Jesus loved. And this is stated in the book of John chapter number 21, verse number 20. Both men wrote a topic of great interest to us today. Among other topics, they strikingly present end-time events and the second coming of Jesus. In this study, we will first hear what Matthew recorded about the end-time events, joining it with the book of Revelation. And I'm going to present them in their sequential order. It is well known that John, the author of the book of Revelation, was the last of the 12 disciples to die. Hence, in this study, it will be fair to begin with the book of Matthew and properly align it with Revelation without missing the core message. And as he sat upon the Mount of Olives, the disciples came unto him privately, saying, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? Matthew chapter number 24, verse number 3. This was right after the Pharisees and Sadducees, those big shot leaders, had grilled Jesus in chapters 21 and 22 about faith subjects. Then in chapter number 23, verses 37 to 39, he dropped a warning, and I quote, O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, thou that killest the prophets, and stonest them which are sent unto thee. How often would I have gathered thy children together, even as a hen gathereth her chickens under her wings, and ye would not. Behold, your house is left unto you desolate. For I say unto you, ye shall not see me henceforth, till ye shall say, Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. Matthew 23, verse 37 to 39. Note the striking message in verse 39. For I say unto you, ye shall not see me henceforth, till ye shall say, Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord. These words stood out in his audience like they'd just heard the thunder. And we will see how in chapter number 24, it's absolutely obvious questions would arise among his own disciples as Jesus dove into a far deeper topic about the future. At this time, only he could clarify the meaning of anything he'd said in chapter 23. The second coming, just announced by Jesus, left them stunned. In plain terms, they were desperate for answers. Let us turn a keen eye to chapter 24, where Jesus spoke clearly and precisely about end-time events. Just after leaving the soon-to-be doomed temple, and Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him to show him the buildings of the temple. And Jesus said unto them, See ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. Matthew 24, verse 1 to 2. These two verses directly foreshadow Jerusalem's destruction a few years later. The scenery is about to get clearer as Jesus sat on the Mount of Olives. The disciples came to him privately, asking, as Matthew 24, verse number 3 says, and I quote, Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world? In their view, three questions would solve their uncertainty. They'd heard the warning about his second coming, but were sure that once he answered those three questions, their hope would finally get clear. Let us first examine the purpose behind each question. When will these things be? Question number 1. This question suggests the disciples were asking about Jerusalem's destruction, or perhaps about Matthew 23, verse 39, which talks about his second coming, or even both. The next question was, what will be the sign of your coming? This question directly asks for the clear signal of his return. The third question was asking about the end of the world. This question clearly asks about the end itself. The word end hinges on context, whether it's a city's fall, an era's close, or the final judgment. So we must check surrounding verses for clarity. Since end shifts meaning with context, we must be precise. We must address this question separately from the second, or we risk jumbling the order of end-time events. In response to those questions, Jesus began by warning them to watch out for deception about false Christs. And I quote, Take heed that no man deceive you, for many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. That you can find in Matthew 24, verse 4 to 5. Christ put it clear that he himself obeyed his Father's commandments, as says John 15, verse number 10. I have kept my Father's commandments. And John testifies of the professed children of God in 1 John chapter number 2, verse 4. He that saith, I know him, and keepeth not his commandments, is a liar, and the truth is not in him. This makes it so apparent that the commandments of God are indeed a light, as testified by the wise King Solomon, that for the commandment is a lamp, and the law is light, and reproofs of instruction are a way of life. This you can read in Proverbs chapter number 6, verse 23. So Jesus laid the foundation for answering their three questions with this warning. In verse number 6 and 7, Christ advances a response, and I quote, And ye shall hear of wars and of rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. Matthew chapter number 24, verse 6 and 7. Here Jesus outlines clear end-time events, wars, rumors of wars, famines, pestilences, and earthquakes in diverse places, but offers deeper context many overlook. He says, "See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end itself is not yet." Dear listener, know this. Though Jesus fully understood his disciples' questions centered on the end, in his wisdom, he laid out signs pointing to other signs of the end. But not that these signs themselves meant the end would have come immediately. Absolutely not. Otherwise, Jesus would have returned during the American Civil War, World War I, or even at the end of World War II. But he didn't, because his words are too true and mean exactly what he said. All these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. By now you might be thinking, but this is what I was taught my whole life. Well, that's not what Jesus said on the Mount of Olives. Now let's see what these wars, pestilences, and other signs really mean. According to Jesus, according to the words of Jesus actually, and I quote Matthew 24, verse number 8, "All these are the beginning of sorrows." This is the truth, a time of trouble and sorrow of sorrows. Now let's see what John saw about the same subject in Revelation. "For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand?" Revelation chapter number 6, verse 17. The great day of God's wrath brings a time of sorrow beyond all sorrows, a time of trouble like none other. "And after these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels, to whom it was given to hide the earth and the sea, saying, Hate not the earth, neither the sea, nor trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads." Revelation 7, verse 1 to 3. So you might be wondering, why didn't the time of trouble, the sorrow beyond all sorrows, come right after the American Civil War, World War I, or even World War II? Well, Revelation 6, verse 17 asks a very serious question that we must consider. "For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand?" A very serious question. This is followed by that angel in Revelation 7, verse number 2, that bids the 4 angels to keep the time of trouble in check, as some work of preparation should be done first. The sealing of God's servants in their foreheads. And I quote, "Hate not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads." Revelation chapter number 7, verse 1 to 3. This alone is why we are not yet in the great time of trouble. Now let's return to Matthew 24, where Jesus lays out the end time events. Matthew 29, verse 9 to 10. "Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you. and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another. This explanation in verse number 9 and 10 suggests that at this time in particular, the saints can still be killed. This is definitely not in the great time of trouble. Because according to Revelation chapter number 6, verse 17, there is a suggestion that in the great day of God's wrath, some will be able to stand. Meaning, you can't kill them. It makes more sense to realize that it is those that are being sealed, as stated in Revelation 7, verse 1 to 3. But at what point will this happen? In Matthew 24, verse 13, we read that, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. Let me break this down. The word end is subjective to context. In this case, the context in reference is about end-time events. Hence, the obvious event being referenced here is the probationary period mentioned in Revelation chapter number 7, verse 3. Had not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in their foreheads. So that Revelation chapter number 6, verse 17 can be fulfilled, which is asking about who shall be able to stand. Now let's consider Matthew 24, verse 14. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. By now you understand that the word end is very subjective to context. So this gospel which is being preached prior to the end is the sealing message, as happened in Revelation chapter number 7, verse 1 to 3. And when the sealing is over, then the end of probation mentioned in verse number 3 will come. This end cannot mean that Jesus is immediately coming. Certainly not. Consider the following text from Matthew chapter number 24, verse 21 to 22. For then shall be a great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time. No shall ever be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. This dispels the idea that Jesus will return the moment the gospel reaches the whole world. The illustration of Jesus has never been more needed has never been more needed today, when winds of doctrine and speculation outnumber morning greetings. Like every day people say good morning, but the lies outnumber those morning greetings. In this text, Christ urgently warned us about what lies ahead for everyone, saying, and I quote, "For there shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall shew great signs and wonders, insomuch that, if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, Behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not." Do you notice what Christ said in verse number 25? Behold, I have told you before. The Son of God, with his divine eye, hoped you and I would recognize these signs when we see them. Matthew chapter number 24, verse 29 to 31 says it further, clearly saying, "Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven. And then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. And they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power, with great power, with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Note verse number 31, the four winds. Isn't this a twin verse to Revelation 7, verse 1 to 3? The four winds? Here says the psalmist regarding the great time of trouble. In the time of trouble, he shall hide me in his pavilion. In the secret of his tabernacle shall he hide me. Psalm chapter number 27, verse 5. Christ has spoken. Come, my people, enter thou into thy chambers, and shut thy doors about thee. Hide thyself, as it were, for a little moment, until the indignation be overpast. For behold, the Lord cometh out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity. Isaiah 26, verse 20 and 21. Glorious will be the deliverance of those who have patiently waited for his coming, and whose names are written in the book of life. If the blood of Christ's faithful witnesses were shed at this time, it would not, like the blood of the martyrs, be a seed sown to yield a harvest for God. They shall be mine, saith the Lord of hosts, in that day when I make up my jewels, and I will spare them as a man spareth his own son that serveth him. Malachi 3 verse 17. By the time the disciples heard Christ's teaching through Matthew 24 verse 31, their three questions were fully answered. Then we see Jesus returning to parables to deepen their understanding of this truth. Dear listener, my deepest desire is that you and I awake from sleep and face the truth in God's word. To know God is to obey his commandments. Here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. Revelation chapter number 14, verse 12. May the Lord keep blessing you and guiding you in thorough preparation for Jesus' second coming. Amen.